My childhood was incredible, and of course I didn't know that at the time because you only know what you know as a kid, and so I just thought it was normal to be growing up on a sailboat and swimming with dolphins and catching rainwater for fresh water and fishing and doing all these crazy things at such a young age that I probably would have never been exposed to if I lived in the United States. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Whitney and I run the blog whitwanders.com. I'm really excited to get into today's video. Today's video is all about story time and giving you guys a little sneak peek into my childhood. I had a very unconventional childhood and upbringing, and whenever I tell people about it, I get so many questions. I published a blog post on this topic and it set off a firestorm of questions. So I'm finally getting a chance to actually address all those questions and break down for you what it was like growing up on a boat. So to give you guys a bit of background about me, I am a US citizen. I was born in the United States, but I primarily grew up abroad. So I left in 1992 when I was 6 years old with my family to sail around the South Pacific on a 52-foot sailboat. So it was my mom and dad, and then I have two brothers and an older sister. I'm the third, so it goes my sister, my older brother, me, and then my little brother. Just a reminder, back in 1992, this was before the internet was invented. This was before smartphones, this was before Facebook, Instagram, Google, Uber. None of that even existed. None of that was even a concept in people's minds. So we're going back to a time when you used paper maps to navigate, when you use phone books to look people's information up and to call them. There was no digital directory, there was no World Wide Web as we know it. It was a much more kind of primitive, basic time in technology. So leaving to go on a sailboat to sail around the world was something that was just not really done or heard of back in the day. Let me tell you a little bit about our boat. Our boat was called Blaze, like Blaze a Trail. It was 52 feet long and was bright red and had Blaze in yellow fire writing on the hull. And it was, I feel like my dad chose this color because he always wanted us kids to be able to find the boat. And most boats are usually like white or blue or navy. Red is a very uncommon color for a boat, and it definitely is something that stands out, and you always knew where these four little kids were coming from because it was the red Blaze boat and we could always find our way back home. So just to give you guys an idea of our voyage, this is my globe. And so essentially what this was is we went from Seattle down the west coast of the United States to Mexico. And then we shot across the Pacific Rim to the Marquesas, Tonga, Fiji, Tuamotus, Western Samoa, American Samoa, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, Australia. I'm missing some. I know I'm missing some. My dad's going to be disappointed with me. But so we made a lot of stops, and in each location we would stay about 3 to 6 months, because even on the map you have kind of the big islands and some of the outer islands, but there are thousands of uncharted islands around some of these larger islands and countries in the Pacific Ocean that have tribes on them, that just have beautiful beaches, amazing sea life, amazing coral reefs, just uncharted, untouched territory back in those days. The technology we had on the boat was very basic. We navigated with paper maps and a sextant, which helps you navigate by the sun and the stars to figure out your position. And then we had a ham radio, which is one of those just kind of like basic radios to talk to other boats. But sat phones were not around, GPS was not around, iPhones weren't around, none of that stuff was available. So it was very basic, and we were in the South Pacific for the majority of our travels, and it is so hot and humid down there, and we had no air conditioning. We did have fans in our cabin, but you never really wanted to be in the cabin because it was already so warm and hot. So when you leave on a sailboat, you essentially kind of have to be self-sufficient. There are no stores out in the ocean, especially in 1992. There was no Target, no Walmart, no Safeway. There's no real one location you can just pull up to get more toilet paper or more gas or more food. Basically what we ate is what we caught from the sea and what we foraged from the islands. And so we would go in and we would cut down bushels of bananas or find fruit on the ground and pick that up and harvest it and bring it back to our boat to have. We had a lot of canned food. The majority of what we ate is what we caught from the sea. So I had seafood for breakfast, lunch, and dinner almost every single day. And people always say that they would love that, but like, let's be real. You don't want to eat fish for breakfast every single day. Seafood is something that I literally cannot stand now. The rest of my family is fine with it, but I cannot eat seafood to this day. Like, I just can't. And I really think it's because of how much seafood I had to eat when I was younger. Anytime there was a tropical storm, our parents would send us out with big buckets, and we would catch the rainwater to have as drinking water. And I always tell people, like, the best water I've ever tasted is fresh rainwater. It's just so pure and so sweet. And on the boat, we had the filtration system where we would dump the water into the filtration system. It cleans it so the water is drinkable and you can use it for cooking and all of those things, just to make sure no bad parasites or any ickiness came into contact with it. And then there were stores on the islands, but oftentimes they would either be completely sold out, there'd be nothing in them, or they would have very minimal items. And so this is a little photo example of just kind of a very basic store. We're getting a little treat of ice cream, which is very exciting. Ice cream was definitely a luxury. For laundry, we had to be very select with laundry because obviously it used a lot of fresh water. There was no washer and dryer aboard the boat. Like, that was not even an option back in the day. So what we would do for laundry is we would take like a huge cooler, like you put drinks and ice in, and we would fill that with water and soap, and then we would take a plunger, and that would be our makeshift washing machine. And we would plunge the clothes, get them all clean, and then we would hang them up to dry along the side of the boat. And that was the way that we did laundry. For schooling, we were homeschooled by my mom and dad, and so there was a lot of Hooked on Phonics books, as well as my mom handled the reading and the writing and most of the day-to-day, and then my dad did kind of math and science, and he taught us more real-world learning. He taught us to navigate by the sun and the stars. He taught us to use sextants. He taught us, life-saving, life-changing skills. And so that's what I mean about I got to do a lot of things that I probably normally wouldn't have been able to do when I lived in the US. And definitely coming back to the States was a big learning curve, just because there was restrictions there that I didn't have when I lived on board a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And so coming back was definitely a challenge and kind of learning a whole new culture. So one of my best memories on board the boat was our first Christmas. And I remember as little kids, we were so worried that Santa would not be able to find us. We were just convinced that he wouldn't be able to find our boat. We were in the middle of the ocean. We were a moving target. How is Santa going to find us? Like, as little kids, this was a very stressful time for us. And my mom really tried to make it fun. We tried to make a Christmas tree out of like green butcher paper and like paste it on the mast, but it kept falling down, and we were just so disappointed and just so sad and just kind of very glum for, a tropical Christmas. And I remember we went to Christmas Eve Mass, and we came back, and someone had left one of those like kind of small little Christmas trees that you like pull the arms out and they're already decorated. And we lost our ever-loving kid's mind. We were convinced that Santa had sent us a Christmas tree. He had found us in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And then we come downstairs, and there's just presents everywhere, and we have our Christmas tree. And I just remember just feeling like I really believed in Santa at that moment. Like, he was real, and he had found us. So this is our Christmas card. This is taken in Fiji. We have our little sarongs on. This is my dad and my mom, and then the 4 little kids. So this is my older sister, my older brother, me, bright blonde little girl, and then my little brother, who just looks so tiny to me. He looks so little. But you have to remember, like, this is pretty far into our voyage. So when we left, we were even younger than this. So an example of some kind of day-to-day activities that we did, just to kind of give you an example of like what do we do every day on the boat. We were always exploring and hiking and checking out different villages and different locations, and obviously a lot of these areas were quite remote. I mean, most of the islands were just kind of thatched huts. There were some schools that were set up by missionaries previously, so we would always bring school supplies with us. But it was very kind of basic, primitive living out there. And so obviously we did a ton of water sports and water activities just because we were on a boat in the middle of the ocean. And this was something that all the family had to learn how to do because obviously we were surrounded by water, so knowing how to swim and being very aware of your surroundings was extremely important. And I remember the story my mom told us about how one time we had stopped at this island and there was just this beautiful reef. And so we all jumped in and we were snorkeling, and kind of how my family would do it is my dad would be in the front, and then it would be like the kids in descending order, and then my mom would be bringing up the rear. And so I'm snorkeling, and you have to remember, I'm still really young. I'm only about 6 years old at this time, and I get water in my mask, and so I stop and I'm fiddling with my mom stops to kind of help me. And before this, we had all been snorkeling, looking at all the sea life. There were so many fish and animals and different creatures all across this beautiful reef. And so she helps fix my mask and then sends me on their way, and then she's fixing her mask. And so she starts to snorkel again, and then she realizes all the sea life is gone. There's no fish. There's none of the little kind of like creatures. The sea anemones are out. They've all closed up. And so if you know what this means, it means there's a predator about. There's something bigger, scarier, and badder out there that they are worried about. And so we're essentially kind of going along this reef this way, and my mom looks across the reef and she sees this massive shark swimming kind of like diagonally towards us, towards her little family and her 4 little children. And my mom kind of raises her head above the water, because usually with a shark they have a fin, so you can see if the fin is out of the water, and the fin wasn't out of the water. So there was no way for my dad to know that the shark was coming. So my mom just starts like booking it as fast as she can to her little kids, gets to my dad and is like, shark, 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 and they both see it. We get to the dinghy, they like literally, I just remember being like thrown into the dinghy. We all get into the dinghy, and then kind of the shark comes by, circles, and then kind of goes off. But definitely a close call, but you never know what you're gonna get when you're out there. My dad was the main driving force behind our voyage, and this was something that he's always wanted to do. This was a lifelong dream of his. And even on my parents' first date, he told my mom that he wanted to sail around the world. So sailing is something that's just always has been really special for him, and it's something that he passed on to us kids, and it's something that we still do as a family and is really special to us. The most common question that my parents got when they told people that they were going to sail around the world was, what are you going to do with your kids? And my parents were like, we're taking them with us. Like, people straight up thought my parents were just gonna go off on this crazy around the world adventure and just leave their children at home. We went with my parents took us with them. You know, I think for my family, or at least for my mom, she always says that the most important thing she could have ever given us was her time. And this was the time for them to actually spend with us and be able to pull us out of school and take us around the world in a way that we probably wouldn't be able to do later on during like high school and college. This whole boat trip shaped our family and me as a person in so many different ways that I'm so thankful for now. So honestly, I could talk for hours about my boat trip. So I'm going to do another video about my boat trip and explore some fun other stories and memories from my childhood. I'm going to let you guys choose the next adventure for the next video. I have 3 topics in mind that I thought would be fun to go into from the boat trip. And the 3 topics are, I was in a circus. I have photographic evidence. My siblings will probably kill me, but I have photographic evidence. We were in the circus. We were attacked by pirates. Or the time that we almost capsized off the coast of Oregon. So those are 3 different topics for you guys to vote on. Leave them in the comments below and tell me what you want to hear. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I answered all of your questions about growing up on a boat. If you guys have more questions, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear more. And make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to have more videos coming. And if you want to swing by and say hi in the meantime, head over to my blog, witwanders.com, or come say hi on Instagram, @wit_wanders. Thanks, guys.